Hey guys, how are y'all doing? Let's see if I prefer maybe Streamlabs. So I'm having some quality difficulties. Hopefully it isn't too bad, but you might get a lot of dropped frames. If you have problems with the audio, let me know. Alright, so if you guys have any questions, we could start with that. Otherwise, I'll probably just find something quickly to talk about so this doesn't get too boring. Hello TBD, Declan, and RGTM. I know which one of you is. While I wait for a question, since oh, what inspired me to make the mod? There we go. It's a good one off the bat. This is Ultra, by the way. I'm not sure what that means. Does that have to do with the quality of the video? Okay. What made me decide to make this mod? So when I played Doki Doki for the first time, there was about a 48 hours where I couldn't think about anything else. It was weird. I don't think it really affected me in quite the same way. Um, oh, okay, I see. Oh, from Encore, gotcha. I maybe just self-conscious about the video quality. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, it was about 48 hours where I was super obsessed with DDLC. Like I couldn't think about anything else. Like I remember the moment I opened my eyes in the morning, it was the first thought that popped into my head. And I can't really explain what it was exactly that um, did that to me about it because I think I saw it slightly differently than everyone else did. I just saw it as really touching something very, very deep, and it fascinated me. And I wasn't affected in the same way where like I had already kind of worked past a lot of my issues with depression and anxiety, so it didn't touch me in the same way I think it did for a lot of other people. In that I did relate to the characters quite a bit, and I connected with them more than I had in quite a long time. I used to do that a lot as a kid with fiction, where I would um, sympathize with the characters and like feel like I was in their place and feel like I was alongside with them, and that hadn't happened in maybe years for whatever reason until I played Doki Doki, and then it like happened again, um, really profoundly, and I felt you know like I wanted more. Like it was super disappointing in some ways that it kind of dropped off and there was nothing else, which was one of the strengths of it. I don't think it should have been done differently, but I do think that one of its weaknesses of Doki Doki is that it doesn't have this conclusion or a way of um, wrapping things up and I don't know, getting a satisfying, I guess, conclusion out of everything, which I think is a shame because I think that's a very positive thing to have with a story. And there's probably many different answers I could give to that question of what inspired me. There's a lot of different inspirations. But one is that, like everyone else, I in some ways wanted to save the characters. And one way for me to do that was to write a story where they get saved. And I also saw that that was something people wanted a lot, and there was a great need for a game like that. And I thought, I think I could make this pretty well, and maybe I could be the one to make this game that people feel a need for. It's taken me a year just to get the demo out, but better late than never. Um, so by writing for these characters, they've become more real for me the longer I write with them. So it has actually kind of fulfilled that fantasy of being able to save them because the longer I write, the more real it feels. So when I do finish writing this story, it will to me at least feel as if I did save them in a kind of a weird way. Uh, it's a little sappy, but that's some of what inspired me to make the game. How long did it take to write all the poems for the demo? I've been writing all the poems that appeared in the demo. I've written over a long period of time. Some I've written from the very beginning. You know what? Maybe I can actually, while I talk, 1 second. because I date all of my journal entries, I might be able to tell you when I first wrote some of these. Because I believe I wrote it... Was it in this notebook? Maybe not. But I've written some of these from the... I started this mod in, like, around the beginning of 2018. Like, I played Doki Doki around Christmas break, and that's kind of where I had that obsessive period, and I decided to start channeling that into something creative just so I wouldn't go insane. So I'd actually have something productive out of it. Here's my other notebook. So I've been writing these poems for a good, like almost 10 months, 9 or 10 months. And I believe I have... Oh, I forgot about this poem. That's good. I'll be able to use that for the full game. I was worried I've used all my poems, and I won't have anything else, but I do still have a few left, thankfully. Okay. So I have My Garden, which was one of the first poems I wrote. Actually didn't... I did. Around January 17th, I wrote My Garden, which is the second poem that MC gives to Sayori. I have a few more that I've scrapped. So yeah, it's taken a long time. Some of those poems I wrote like maybe like a month out, like fairly shortly before playtesting probably. Well, I mean, maybe not that late in the game, but only like 2 months ago or so. So it took a long time. There's a lot of poems I haven't used, and thankfully a few left over that I'll be able to use in the full game because I don't see myself reusing any of these poems in the full game. So I'm going to need all the poems I can get, because this is definitely very ambitious for how many poems I have to write, but I've gotten much better at it the longer I do it, which has been great. Will the full game have new poems for the main girls, or will all their poems stay the same? That's a good question. I would ideally like to... I didn't like putting some of the old poems in, because maybe just because I had read everything so much that I got kind of tired of it myself, but I felt like it was kind of lazy. Like I would like to have as much of new content without recycling old DDLC content as possible. And I think I'll be able to do that a little bit more in the full game than I did in the demo. So I haven't decided quite yet if I'm gonna have any of the original poems yet. Maybe like the first day, and maybe I'll be able to find a way in the plot to move on. But I am going to. My idea has always been to write. Hey Frito, how's it going? My idea has always been to write new poems from all the characters' perspectives, and I do have some of those lined up. How many that is, I'm not quite sure yet. It's gonna depend on the plot and how it feels, what feels right as I'm writing it, and I'm going through my first draft. And it's kind of, I don't even quite know that yet, but I'll probably be decently guarded with that information when I do find out. How many times have you made Renpy crash making this mod? It depends what you mean by crash. If you just mean like an error, quite a lot. Like you miss one letter and it just doesn't work, and you have to thankfully it tells you where it is. So it's usually an easy fix, but that can be pretty annoying. Yeah, probably like 100. Who knows? At least 50. I'll wait for another question, hopefully. I'll show you what I've been spending with my time. I've been reading this book, Into the Woods. This is a book that my good friend Justin gave to me a number of months back, and it's a book on character arcs. And that has been very useful. I read, you can see by the bookmark how little of it I have read, and it has already been incredibly helpful. So I read just like the first couple chapters shortly before releasing my to playtesters, and it helped a ton with the plotting and the decisions I made just for the playtest version of the game. And I'm reading it more this past week, and it's been helping a lot. I've been working a lot on character arcs and the different plot outlines, so that's been exciting. Did you work on everything solo? Uh, Practically yes. I mean, I've commissioned art, but I was, working with those artists and telling them, what I wanted, and I'm paying for it out of pocket, of course. The music I can credit Jan Air. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because I didn't do any of that. Maybe there was one or two things where I edited it to, like at the beginning, for example, and I used this at a few different points. There's kind of like this creepy ambiance that is like the beating like 5 to 10 seconds of one of his tracks, and I edited it out and looped it because it was like, for example, when the Sayori dream where she suddenly like starts guilt tripping MC. That's the ambiance that I edited myself. But besides, playtesters helped quite a bit with guidance, but they just told me what they thought and what they thought of different parts, and that helped me decide what did I do right, what did I do wrong, what I need to add. So practically, this has been a very one-man show, which has been a lot of pressure, but also kind of in a good way. I really enjoyed that, and I kind of like it that way. And I thought about early on trying to recruit other people, like trying to ask, okay, maybe I can find someone I can write this with. But I decided that that would probably not be a good idea. It probably wouldn't be fair to them because I realized that my ideas were so specific, and I was very passionate about what I was doing, that um, anything I did or anything that a writing partner did, I would just scrutinize heavily with to no fault of them, but just based on what I wanted and how important this was to me. And just like I couldn't do that to another writer, that would be too stifling creatively for them. So I realized I had to do this on my own, and it's been a great experience. I mean, I've grown a ton as a writer since doing this. I mean, I look back at I have some work before this that I'm very proud of, and I'm going to be revisiting that soon to try and rehash some old short stories I was working on before, because I've kind of left them alone when I was supposed to go back and like come out with another draft. That'll be fun, just to refresh myself with something that's not Doki Doki at some point. But when I look back from like my first scenes I wrote for this project, I've grown a ton as a writer, and I've learned so much about this story. Just working on the demo, since I put the actual full game to the side to work on the demo, however many months ago that was, I can't even tell because it's all a blur. Um, I've learned so much about the story and about writing just in that short amount of time. So this has been a fantastic experience. I know the good ending is a serious mod, but have you ever had thoughts of adding meta-based comic relief in the mod, like adding silly roses or red poems? That's a good question. My typical writing style has usually a kind of a humorous side to it. When I was writing science fiction stories, I ended up adding a lot of jokes in, and I felt like they did pretty well. That's kind of my writing style, and I would describe my stories as like humorous, imaginative science fiction. So that's a good question. I'm sure there will be moments like that. They kind of, I think, will come to me as I get to them. Um, I think I had a few moments like that in the demo, but they didn't really feel like comic relief because there was so much tension at the time that, and they're also kind of weird, so they couldn't really, like with Sayori, like doing the tickling and or the pick your back ride stuff. I don't think that could really be funny because there was so much tension going on, and then it's also because it was weird and it was supposed to be a little bit off because it was supposed to be kind of like cutesy dating sim event, which there hadn't really been a lot of, and I think that was I liked that I did that, but that was I think the closest thing I had to comic relief in the demo, and it wasn't really a good spot for it to actually be comic relief. Not that that was a bad thing. Um, Probably, I'd imagine it's kind of my writing style. I like humor a lot, so there'll probably be moments like that. I haven't I don't think I've written any yet. I have to look back at my notes from what I've written before the demo. Um, but it's going to be a pretty long mod, so it could end up being super serious. Um, and more on the emotional side. I definitely am interested in having that as an aspect, but I could definitely see uh, some comic relief. All right. Any other questions? Or anything you'd like me to expand on that I've already asked? While I wait, maybe I'll just do a little bit of flexing, and I'll be right back. All right, I won't put these on. Sorry, but a little while back I couldn't help myself. Got one of this, and then one of Best Girl. I wanted to get the Monica one, but it was out of sale, and probably a good thing with how much money I spent on these already. It took me like a month to talk myself into buying those, and even then I was like, God, am I really spending this much on a shirt? An idea when the full release will come out. I have a really tough time with that. I find that I'm really bad with time estimates. Maybe that's normal, but like I feel like anything. That's right, Declan. That's the correct answer. Um, I feel like any estimate I have is just going to change exponentially over time. Thank you. I like those shirts too. I don't really have many chances to wear them because I'm not the kind of guy to like wear anime shirts in public, but um, I like that I have them. Um, I imagine it could take as long as a year and possibly longer. I really hope not. It depends how much time I have to work on them. That's kind of been why I've been trying to make this Patreon page thing happen, and I'll be focusing on that more in the future and trying to talk people into donating to that because uh, the amount of time I'm able to contribute to this mod is really going to greatly impact when it comes out. And since it could take such a long time, I'm really hoping I can spend as much time on it as possible because I really would not like for this to take 2 or 3 years. And if it does, it feel like it's going to be on the 2 or 3 year time scale, which I doubt. I'm not saying it will. I just don't have any idea right now because I haven't written it yet. Um, and I found that I'm really bad at those estimates. I probably do it in different parts, like have a part one, part two, part three kind of thing, because that's just too long to go without releasing something. Um, my goal in mind is like have it out in a year or less. That would be ideal, but if that's not possible, then I'm going to focus on making the best game that I possibly can, and having trying to give people reasons to stick around and to wait for the full release, however long that is, whether that's in parts or I'm just giving people something, um, some kind of like teasers or something that is giving back to people who are supporting me and sticking through that long process. I want to still be giving some kind of entertainment to people in the meantime, which is why I'm trying to get used to like being on camera and to communicating and stuff like that. Was there a point in mod development that you actually scared yourself? Um, there not I mean not like actually jump scared myself, but there were a number of points like replaying the whole thing where I think maybe I got myself once actually where I forgot something was coming and I startled myself or like I got distracted. I think there was one time actually, um, but there was a lot of times where I'm not really a horror person. I used to be really into it when I was a kid, and I just don't really care for it anymore. I really am more interested in like the positive and like having like a I don't know like an avenue for growth and just conveying meaning in a story, and that's what's interesting to me about the good ending. Um, that was what it was interesting to me about Doki Doki, more than the scares and the horror part. Was the actual kind of like meaning behind the story. So the horror that I've written and will write is more feels like a means to an end because it does help make it uh, a stronger story for what it is since this is a Doki Doki mod. Um, so I'm willing to. It's been fun in some ways revisiting horror because I did used to write it when I was like in high school and younger. Um, it's been fun to revisit horror and to see how well I can do that now. Um, and but like my heart isn't in it in the same way it used to be. So replaying some of those scenes, just it was like a weird feeling of like, oh God, no, what am I about to do to people? Like I felt bad. Like it felt like very like holy crap, that's crazy messed up. Um, that was kind of weird, uh, but also enjoyable in some ways. I don't know. So one time I scared myself, I think, and many times I had like an oh shit moment of like what the hell have I done? um, I don't really have feelings of unease because I know everything that happens and I see everything in the demo and that I've done and that I will do as a means to an end because I do intend on having a good ending that makes any suffering the characters have gone through worth it. And that's kind of the point of the suffering is that it's, uh, especially in the demo and whatever else I might have planned in the future, is that it does make the good ending more real and more satisfying and to really have purpose. If it really, and not just be just another fan game or a piece of fan fiction, but something that really means something. Um, that's what all the tragedy is for. And that tragedy is one of the things that was really powerful about Doki Doki. And I think it would be so much more powerful if there was also, um, I don't know, I can't explain this in a concise enough way, but if there really was something positive that came out of it. Um, so when I look through the events of, say, the demo, um, I I'll often feel sad. There's, to be honest, and this is maybe somewhat egotistical because it's my own writing. Maybe it's kind of like laughing at your own joke. But there are a lot of points in the demo where if I replay it, I'll tear up or like get choked up. I mean, that's why I wrote them, is because they mean that to me, and I wasn't just trying to do that to people. It's something that I also feel. Uh, I probably actually have more points like that than other people because maybe I knew what was coming at certain parts, so different parts might make me tear up earlier on. But like the scene with Sayori at the end of the white background where she talks to you, that was the to me that was probably the biggest scene, um, at least for me personally. And I've seen it like 20 times, I'm sure. And I remember like when I first wrote it, and like the first like when I was first refining it and going through it, and man, it would just like would wreck me. Thank you, TBD. I've probably cried at that scene more than anyone else, so that really means a lot when I hear that. Um, I really do appreciate it, and I hope it was an experience that was in some way worthwhile. Um, and I'm really glad that I mean, it feels weird to be glad that other people are crying, but I'm really glad that also worked for other people, and that was also something that they saw because that was something I was really wanted to share with people, and I was really looking forward to finally getting to share because it was something that was special to me. Um, and man, all right, I don't want to think about it too much so I don't start crying on camera. How far are you willing to break Renpy to enhance the player's viewer's experience? I'm willing to do anything. Um, I want to really kind of try and push things further than I have, and that's where I'd like to start recruiting help and like using this demo bit as like a resume of trying to find people who are willing to help me, and maybe know more than I do. I feel like with enough time, I could probably figure out some more stuff to do that would be really fun. A lot of the stuff that I've added came in at the last second. Um, I had to. I was proud of the opening scene with like it was pretty simple in retrospect. It's like I just handmade every frame and then like every like tenth of a second change to the next frame for the like I will not forget part. But I was really proud of like figuring that out and making something cinematic. And I'd like to try and push that and see what else I can do. Um, Renpy's been fun with problem solving, just like having an idea and then trying to execute on that idea. And that's gone. I found that really enjoyable, and it makes me wonder if maybe I'll be interested in some game development even after I finish with a good ending. Thanks, RGTM. That means a lot. Um, yeah. Uh, I originally, for a long time, that scene wasn't part of the plan, and I'm really glad I thought of it because I think the demo would have really been lacking without it. Um, I mean, imagine like you had like the end of the MC, and he just says like that part where he says goodbye, and then it says delete characters, delete files, and then just glitches out to black, and then like that's it. That would have been a bad move, even with the letters at the end. I think it was made much stronger personally with the Sayori scene, and that was especially because in the demo I don't have much of the full game in it. I know this. I know most of the structure of the story of the full game. I know uh, the kind of the attitude and most of what happens in the full game, and there wasn't a lot of that in the demo. There was really only tiny glimpses and hints, um, and that scene was one of the very few parts where you really saw the spirit of the full game. I think, in kind of a pure, unadulterated form for a short time. Um, there was a couple other parts, but besides that, it was like very small hints that weren't really hints because you wouldn't know that they were hints because if you haven't seen the full game. Um, so that was a chance to really let um, the positive side of the characters speak through Sayori, and I was really hoping it would kind of tie up some of the loose ends of like what I was trying to convey with the characters, and that I wasn't trying to make Yuri seem like a monster. I wasn't trying to make MC seem like a monster, although that was very hard to do, and I think a lot of people did come away with the idea that, or not like seeing him as the most positive person, but I tried to uh, at least show that he is a good person, that it was acting with good intentions, and that there was other things at work, um, and that in my mind, Sayori, Monica, and the rest of them would forgive him for what he did. Just as well, I shouldn't say too much, but um, there's a lot of different ideas I tried to squeeze into that scene, and also just letting Sayori speak was very satisfying for because I like her, and you know, I think she got the best treatment in the mod, even though she did hang herself near the end with that scene and also with the romance, and that was very nice. That was satisfying, as she is in some ways my favorite character, and I'd like to be able to make her happy for a short time. What would you say is your favorite piece of literature? Oh man, that's tough, and I might not be able to think of the correct answer off the top of my head. Um, I'm a big fan of Terry Pratchett, and I've read a lot of his work. It's been a little while since I've read him. Um, he would be my favorite author, and for those who don't know, he passed away a couple years ago. He was a fantasy author, and he's just very funny, just incredibly funny, and he wrote a ton of books, a lot of which were part of the Discworld series, which took place. The Discworld was this like it's a world that's a disc that's on the backs of four elephants, which are riding on the back of a giant turtle swimming through space. Um, so it's literally a flat world plus all of that, and there's a lot of magic and his world building for magic and the wizards, and there's gods and trolls and all the rest. It was really well done and just super funny and really really great writer. Um, so my answer will probably change over time once I think about it. I'm not really the kind of person who has a great answer for something like that, even if I should. But I'd have to say uh, something from the Discworld series would probably qualify. Although, if you gave me long enough, I could probably find a different answer. And speaking of which, I do have a lot of more technical books, like on plot structure and writing craft, which I really enjoy. But here is the first book of the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. This is one of my favorite possessions because it is signed by him. And back when he was alive, you could order these off of a website for like $15, and he would sign them for you, which was pretty nice. Maybe I could just show you stuff off my bookshelf until people get bored. Um, Thank you. Yeah, he was a great writer. It's a shame he passed away. Yeah, just monster work ethic. Like he'd write like a book a year, and the sort of he wrote like 50 books in the Discworld series, and so many of them are just really really fantastic. My favorite ones were with Rincewind, um, like Raggedy Wizard. Just really really funny. It's been a long time since I've read them, but that's what this first book is. Are there any Easter eggs or shareable secrets in the mod? It looks like you guys have already found most of them. Um, so I don't want to talk about that too much because I don't want to like break the illusion. But that was definitely a big fun. That was a lot of fun to do, and I have a lot planned for that. Because like everything else, the demo is really just a small teaser into what I have planned. Um, you guys still haven't found the answer to 158, so I'm still waiting for that to happen. Although I'd be surprised. It'd take someone that was obsessed with the one specific thing, as I was. So we'll see how that goes. But once you find it, it's pretty clear cut. So that'll be interesting. So man, is there anything else I can say? Is there in terms of Easter eggs? Um, well, if you haven't solved those ciphers yet, those are pretty big. But besides that, maybe just small uh, references here and there that wouldn't really count as secrets or Easter eggs like the other stuff. But some of you have found the answers to pretty much everything. You have not found my answer to 158. I won't comment on your theories so far, just because I want to, whether right or wrong, I don't want to hint towards that because it's too important of a plot point. And if you do find what I'm talking about, and maybe this is me just not being disciplined because I am talking about it still, you won't need me to confirm it. It'll be very clear cut. Thank you, RGTM. I'm really glad. I did have some people in mind. Of all the people I had in mind of who I was making this game for, and there's a lot of people. One of them was people who were obsessed enough to try and like find all these secrets and stuff with the original game, because that was something I found really interesting and fun about the original game, and I kind of came too late when everything else was already solved. But like I really looked really hard for extra stuff. Like I was really convinced that there was some secret messages in certain places. And some of you might be able to guess where I thought those were. If I don't get any more questions, I'm just going to show you some books. So I did try to watch some anime after getting into Doki Doki, and one was The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I'm currently on book 3, and the series is apparently pretty hit or miss. Like some people just like either hate or love it. And there was I didn't like the fan service. Like that was pretty weird. But everything else about it I thought was brilliant. And I've started reading the books, and I really enjoy It's clear that the writer is very talented. Although it's a shame that how much is lost in translation. But that is something I really recommend. 1 second. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I wanted to make it. I wanted to make it um, difficult so that there was really um, it's the puzzles did have were respectable, but I also wanted to make it intriguing for the average person and for hopefully most people kind of at least realize they were there. Uh, yeah, yeah, I was kind of that's the kind of thing with anime. You do have to get used to the fan service. You're right. It was kind of fun in a way with Haruhi because it was just so shocking. It was almost fun when it came up. Um, just because like having that big of a what the fuck moment. Oh, excuse me, pardon my language. Having that big of a WTF moment, like every 15 minutes in a show, kind of made it interesting. Um, and also just I love the. I'm really excited to see where like the rest of the series goes after the anime ends. So I'm really hoping to be able to catch up on those books. Happy Sugar Life, huh? That sounds uh, really wholesome. The I've read a couple mangas. I haven't really watched any other animes. I don't think. Well, kind of, but not really. Um, Full Metal Alchemist. I read the whole series, as every other uh, amateur weeb has. Um, and I read the Berserk series, which is a fantastic manga series, and also I think a good anime, though I haven't watched it. Is a fantastic manga series, which I highly recommend you do not read. Um, it is uh, really well written. The art is fantastic, and please don't read it. You will sincerely regret it. By the time I realized that I didn't want to read it, it was too late, and I was already hooked. It's one of those things. I assume you're talking about Happy Sugar Life. Yeah, 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 you are. Yeah, I'll bet. Don't trust something named Happy Sugar Life out of Japan. It's either made for 3-year-olds or it is not made for 3-year-olds. Let's see. I have some boring structure books that I find very interesting. This is something I live by. It's called The Elements of Style. It's a very old book. I've seen some of I forget how to pronounce that anime. Um, it's a good anime. Not the kind of thing I really get very into. Um, Elements of Style is a very good handbook for if you just want to if anyone wants to improve on writing at all. Um, it's like really simple rules to follow that really can help you just tighten up your writing and get good at little things like well, I don't know a good example, but that helped me a lot in improving. Um, how was it? I should probably watch some of the spin-offs for Haruhi. I've heard they're good, but maybe I don't need to get myself sucked into another series. Violet Evergarden. Maybe I'll take up some of these recommendations at some point. Or one last book. I have more Haruhi books, but whatever. This is a book on character arcs, which I'm a big believer in. I'm a big fan of story structure, and I like to follow that pretty closely. Uh, so this book was very big for me a couple of years ago, or like a year or two ago, uh, and that helped me a lot with my experience with writing. And that's something I find pretty interesting. I'm sure no one else does. Hmm. Any other questions anyone has? I guess I've been going for 40 minutes, so I guess at some point I should wrap this up, but I'm having fun, so maybe I'll just keep going for as long as it feels right. And afterwards, I think I'll get. I was writing another scene for the full game today, which I'm not supposed to be doing, but it's actually been refreshing, so I felt like it's okay. Thanks for coming, Declan. I'll see you around. What's funny is that like right behind you guys, like right behind this camera, I have post-it notes filled with like secrets that y'all can't see about the full game. All right, looks like everyone's kind of heading out, so I'll wrap this up. Um, Thanks for coming, RGTM. It's good good to hear your questions. It was a lot of fun. Um, Let me know how the stream quality was for this, because I'm getting a lot of notifications about skipped frames. But as long as the audio is okay, then I can live with that. This equipment isn't the best. It's just I'm just using my laptop with my webcam. But hopefully one day I can get something better. So I'd love to hear your feedback on the stream quality, and just thanks for hanging out. Maybe we can do this again.